Welcome to Leaders Gotta Lead. Join our leaders and hosts, Dan Gomer and Scott Harshman, as they bring you powerful strategies and insights to help you lead with purpose, impact, and unstoppable success.
All right, welcome everyone to the very first episode of Leaders Gotta Lead. And today we've got a good friend of mine, Ben Ellefson. We've known each other for a really long time. Got a lot of respect for you and what you've done over at Porchlight and with your team and your mentorship and within your business. And you've done a lot for me too. When I first got into real estate, you were the one that was helping me with doing fix and flips and like, hey, this is what you need to fix. Don't fix this over here, helping me sell them, helping me buy them, and really get my feet wet in the industry. And I didn't realize you've been in the industry now for 25 years. You're now building your own team and some of your hobbies, three different black belts, a major mountain biker, right? And competing in mountain biking and all that kind of stuff, a father, a husband, a second generation Colorado native, which I also did not know. And, I think one of the things that really stands out to me with you and why I asked you to be on this show is because I think you really do embody this idea of what it means to be a good leader. And we'll get more into that obviously here in a little bit. But, as I read through your bio and my experience of you, you're very tied into how can I serve? How can I help? How can I lead my clients, whether it's somebody buying a $150,000 condo or a $3 million whatever. It's how can I help make this process better for them, easier for them, all of those kinds of things. And so, big shout out to you. And thank you so much for being onto the show.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the warm intro and all the kind words. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for having me on and for thinking that I had something important to say. So thank you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to getting into it. Before we dive into all that, I just want to do a quick, intro. What is this show all about? Where did it come from? And, where it was really born was, at least for me and Scott, you can kind of share for you, but there's a lot of chaos always in the world. And we need more good leaders. And when I first came up with this idea of like, this is something I'm passionate about. I want to talk about like what makes a good leader. I'm like, there's tons of people who are talking about this stuff. I don't need to do that. And then it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, no, we need more people talking about how to be good leaders. And so really the point of this whole podcast is to present ideas from different people about how we can, like, tools that we can leverage, ideas that we can leverage to become better leaders. Because as we improve as leaders, as we help other people improve as leaders, ultimately that makes the world a better place. And it all begins with leadership. Who are we following? And how are we leading other people to make them better, improve their lives? And so I want this to just be a platform for other people. Like, I've got my ideas on leadership, but I want other people to share their ideas on leadership so that we can get a broader idea or broader spectrum of ideas of how to be the best leaders that we could possibly be. So that's kind of the idea here.
And to piggyback a little bit off of that too, is a lot of people don't realize that they are a leader in a lot of different capacities, right? So some people think like, oh, I have a boss or I have a leader at my employment. That's not just being a leader. Are you a leader of your household? Are you a leader of your kids? Are you a leader of an extracurricular activity for your kids, like coaching them in something? So it's not just, leadership inside of the work area. It's also leadership in the full spectrum of everything, from your house to your kids to extracurricular activities, leader of your friends, leader at your church, whatever it may be. There's a lot of different types of leaders out there. So that's what we really want to embody on this as well.
Right. And it kind of started with real estate. Like, we have a great opportunity to, we're team leaders, all of us here, right, in real estate in some way, shape, or form. Or so it's kind of started with that. And then we're like, man, why don't we open it up to like everybody, teachers, parents, pastors, everything, right? Leaders in all different shapes and sizes. So anyway, well, thank you so much, Ben, for being on the show, being the first guest. And one of the things I think too that speaks to your character was, we were talking before we started here, and And, I think one of the coolest things that I heard you say was that you spent a lot of time thinking about why you chose to be a leader. And if you ask me what makes a good leader, I think one of the biggest pieces is self-reflection, like honest self-reflection. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, why did you become a leader? What came up for you as you were looking at that?
Well, I mean, I think specifically, in the realm of residential real estate, the reason that I wanted to lead was when I got started in the industry, although I was surrounded by a lot of successful professional people, the real estate industry kind of leads itself to be an independent sport, if you will. Realtors and real estate professionals, we're all in competition with each other. And so there wasn't a lot of collaboration when I was first starting my career. And what collaboration I did have seemed very slighted to the people that were offering that help, And so, I would end up doing, a lot of work, as a lot of new professionals in the real estate industry do. You do a lot of work, and or you get a referral from somebody, and then you end up having to pay a good chunk of that away, and then you get done with that experience. And you don't really feel like anybody helped you out. I just kind of felt like I was taken advantage of. And there's really not a lot of influence in our industry to get leadership and to get coaching and that sort of stuff. You kind of just, you go along the bumpy road, and hopefully, 5-6 years later, you're still surviving and you're still still able to sell some houses. But it's a hard nut to crack. And so when I got to a certain place in my career, I wanted to be that resource that I didn't have for other people.
I think my favorite question to ask, that we'll probably ask everybody, is, okay, great. So you know that you want to be a leader, you want to impact people's lives in ways that have you didn't have what you are offering to other people, right? You're giving them that leg up that you wish you had, if I heard you correctly.
Yep, nailed it.
So, okay, so now you're moving forward, you're intentionally taking on this leadership role. What is it that makes somebody a great leader? And you can use examples of people that you know or yourself or whatever. Like, what is it that makes a great leader?
Well, I think a great leader is somebody that's leading for the right reason. Is that leader leading for their glory or for the glory of the people that they're leading? And so I think that's really what makes a great leader, is somebody who's really doing it for the benefit of the person that they're helping and not doing it for the benefit of themselves.
But are there leaders out there? And this was a discussion that Scott and I had. And we don't need to go all the way down this rabbit hole, but we kind of had two ends of the spectrum, right? In terms of leadership, there's Jesus and Hitler.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, those are great examples.
Right.
Both people led extremely well.
Right. So when you look at, or say it's a leader of a big corporation and they're taking advantage of people, but they have all of these followers, right? Like, are those people who have a negative, like Hitler, right? A negative mantra, model, objective, are they still good leaders? And if so, or if not, what kind of determines that,
Unfortunately, yes, they are still great leaders. They're amazing leaders. It's just the direction that they're leading. And I think that if you're leading in a direction that is to help and benefit others, like look at, if we're going to use the example of Hitler and Jesus, look at Jesus. Jesus was a very selfless person. So we're told. And so the narrative goes. And if you look at the other opposite side of that spectrum, Hitler was not doing that for anything else but his own control and to have the world his way. And so there's perfect examples. You have somebody who's leading for others and to make the world a better place, or you have somebody who's leading and trying to make the world a not better place. So I really just think it's how that leader wants to lead. But we all lead in a way. It's just, what's our motive behind it?
So your style of leadership through, let's say, work specifically, what would you say is more your style? Is it more of Jesus's style?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, give us some examples of what you do to lead on that style.
Well, one thing is I lead by example. I don't, as far as if we're going to keep it in the realm of work and real estate, I coach and I teach the way that I practice. You're not going to find any discrepancies. And so the people that encouraging to do their real estate practice a certain way, when they see how I do it, it mimics exactly what my narrative is. That's to help people facilitate and make good real estate choices.
And now you're talking about authenticity,
There
right?
it is.
Because there's the saying, do as I say, not as I do. And I was listening to a podcast, I can't remember where, the other day, and they were talking about parents. And they were like, you can say stuff until you're blue in the face, but think about you and how you relate to your parents. The things that you picked up were the things they were doing, that they were modeling for you. Didn't matter what they said. It's about what you model. And so you're talking about being authentic. The way I speak to the cashier, the way that I speak to my team, the way that I speak to whoever, or the way that I operate is consistent. Therefore, there's
100%.
alignment within you that says this is the way that I operate, and then people can model that versus listening to you.
Yep, exactly. And one of the quotes that I live by is, "How we do one thing is how we do everything," and it's pretty consistent for all of them. I mean, if you think about it, you probably run your business just like you run your home life, just like you run. If your car is clean, your house is probably clean, your checkbook's probably clean. Those sort of things, and it's there's some variances there, of course, but how we do one thing is how we do just about everything.
Try having 4 kids and keeping your house clean.
Amen. I get it.
I'm kidding. So where do you feel like you exceed in your leadership skills today?
I feel that I exceed in leadership skills because I genuinely want the glory for the people that I'm leading. Like, I've had my glory, and not that I'm not still after it. I will chop wood and carry water with the best of them. I am not ready to hang up my spurs. I'm not ready to hang up my spurs yet, but I've had enough personal success in many areas of my life that I really want to pass that joy and experience on to other people, whether it's somebody that I'm helping out in cycling, or somebody that I'm helping out in real estate, or somebody that I'm helping out in their spiritual journey to figure out their demons and the things that they're dealing with. It's all kind of the same narrative.
Awesome. Now I'm gonna poke you a little bit. I need you to be vulnerable here. Okay.
Please.
Where do you feel like you need the most work on your leadership skills? Because I feel like all of us, no matter if you're Jesus or Hitler, right? You're always looking at, what can I learn? How can I get better at different types of leadership? Where are you focusing your most energy and effort on right now to become a better leader?
I think it would be in patience. And I think that's one thing that I am not starting, but one thing that I'm understanding as I'm getting in there in years and stuff is how important patience is, not only with myself, not only with situations, but also with other people. We all catch our stride, if you will, at different times. And so, how I did something isn't necessarily the same way that maybe somebody that I'm mentoring is going to be able to pick it up. And so just having the patience and being able to have the experience to have the patience to sit back and let things unfold. Now, again, that's something that I'm still, developing, and I'm still having to remind myself of having to practice patience with others, but also practicing patience too with myself. So I think that is the area that I'm aware of that I need the most focus on.
Can I piggyback on that real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay. So one thing that I heard you say is practice. You said practice like a bunch of times there in that sentence. And I think one thing that's just really important to note is that um, leaders practice. In other words, they are constantly, how can I get better? How can I get better? So at some point you said, "Oh man, I should have been more patient in that situation. I should work on being more patient." And then you started practicing it. And as you
Mhm.
practice it, you get better, you get more experienced, and then you become wiser and you become, and then that's when no matter what the thing is that you're working on, it's the act of making yourself better. This is just my opinion. The act of making yourself better that allows us to make other people better. And as a leader, it's so important to constantly be practicing in some way, shape, or form, something in your life.
I agree. I think that you nailed it. If I'm being a leader and I'm not sharpening my sword, how sharp is the sword going to be for the ones that it won't be? And so you're right. Yes, you have to have, daily practices and routines, and you have to have aspirations to be better in areas that I'm deficient in, and those sort of things. And so, yeah, it's constantly wanting to be better, and constantly wanting to be better is part of what I do with surrounding myself with people that I perceive as above me. And I don't mean above me, but like where I want to be, where I would like to get, and where I would like to go. And so I think it's also important that if you're going to be a steward of somebody that's going to lead others, then you need to be one that's led yourself. And no successful person out there is a Rambo, is a solo person. It all has to be done with a team. It all has to be done with a coach. It all has to be done with support. And so if I'm leading others, I need to be led myself.
And I that was going to lead me into my next question. So thanks, Dan, for taking that over. But I believe in mentors. It sounds like you believe that in them as well. Mentors, you can call them coaches, whatever you want to call them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to my cardiologist about how to manage my finances, right? I'm not going to talk to, I don't know, my financial advisor on how to run my business per se. Now, there might be some things I could steal from them, of course, but I'm not going to ask them how to run a mortgage business. So who are you following with patience? Who is mentoring you now so that you can get better at patience?
I've been coaching with a gentleman named Doug McGee for the past 3 years, and I think that is where I've picked up a lot of the sense that I need to be more patient. He's very patient with me and with my development, and in other areas. And so just by watching, being aware of him coaching me is, it's a trickle down, just like anything else in life. And just like you were referring to, with our kids, they do what they're taught, and we do what we're taught. And if we're surrounded, if I surround myself by good teachers, and I can be a good teacher.
And Dan's an ex-teacher, so surround yourself even more with him.
Well, I've been hanging out with this guy for a couple decades, so no longer than that, man. I mean, maybe 3 decades.
So I've got kind of a two-part question here that so they kind of relate to each other. So the first one is who is, like, when a phenomenal leader comes to your mind, who is past, present, alive, not alive, whatever, who do you think represents kind of the quintessential leader in your mind? Hey guys, Dan Gomer here with the Leaders Gotta Lead podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you are enjoying the content, and if you are, I've got great news because there's more where that came from. Just click on the link in the show notes to discover new ways to plug into what we're doing, to find new content that we're putting out, and to discover how we might be able to work together to elevate your leadership game. Just click on the link in the show notes and let's take our leadership success to the next level.
Well, a few. I think Jesus is up there. I think Abraham Lincoln is up there. I think Gandhi's up there. And the one thing that, all of those people have in common is they're very selfless, and they really wanted the benefit of other people. And so,
And
I mean,
yeah, and what's so cool about that is what I hear you talk about is longevity, right? Like going back to the Jesus Hitler thing, right?
yeah,
Jesus's impact and influence is still super powerful 2000 years later. Hitler was powerful for 5 years or whatever it was, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's one of the worst human beings that ever lived." Like,
yeah,
and so his influence of his messaging has really dissipated very quickly. It spiked and it dissipated versus somebody who puts other people's first has longevity and legacy.
yeah. And arguably, within, and it doesn't matter on where you stand politically, but Abraham Lincoln is regarded as one of the best presidents that the United States has ever had the privilege of having in office. And I think the reason is because he was really for America. It wasn't about Abe, man. It wasn't about Abe Lincoln. He was about America, and I think there's a lot to be learned there.
Absolutely.
Especially in this day and age.
Yeah, always, right? Always. We need to be talking about leadership and what it looks like. So what about on the flip side of that? And you don't have to name names. It could be somebody that, an experience in your life, somebody that you actually know or otherwise, the worst leader that you've ever seen.
Well, and without names, I think it would just be somebody that is leading for themselves. They're using a group of people or a message or an influence for their own personal directives or their own agendas, directives, and they're not doing it for the glory of the people that they're helping or for the narrative of the thing that they're helping. They're doing it for themselves. And so I think there's plenty of examples that we can all pull from, both past and present. And it's just, that's really, you can lead in many, many different ways and people will follow. And I just think that I think the good leaders lead selflessly, and I think that bad leaders lead for their own agenda and their own glory.
Yeah.
Is there a leader that you can think of that you identified that early on, whether it be in your career or throughout your life, that you saw it, and what characteristics finally made you say, like, okay, that is not a good leader. I need to stop following them. And you, again, don't name names, but like,
no, it wasn't so much a specific person as I would say that it was, from a professional standpoint, that I would say it's our industry as a whole. The residential real estate industry as a whole isn't really set up for leadership. It's set up, it's set up for, just for people to, I don't know how it's set up, but it's not set up for leadership and for a mentorship program. I mean, I've always been a big, proponent of like that there, you should be in a mentorship program for a year if you're going to be helping somebody with their biggest financial decision and where they have most of their, their equity or liberties in. It shouldn't just be somebody that can go through a 6-week course and get a license and then just go out there. But that's the way that our industry is designed. And so it's not designed to steward anybody into any type of a nurturing environment. It's just, hopefully you survive and, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads me into another question. You had mentioned that, somebody, if you want to lead, then you should be part of some kind of mentorship program, right? So if I'm going to lead, I've also got to be a learner, essentially. So if like I think back to my journey, I was a teacher and I got into real estate and I always had this dream of coming back into a leadership role. I never knew what it looked like. Now I have that ability with my team and that kind of thing, which I absolutely love doing. But I think back on my journey early on and my lack of ability to lead just because of a lack of experience. I didn't even know where to begin, all those kinds of things. So for somebody who is out there who wants to be in a leadership role, they want to do it right, but they just lack the confidence. They do not know what it means to be a good leader. They don't know how they're ever going to get into that role. Like, what advice might you have for somebody early on in their career who wants to move forward as a leader?
Yes, that's a great question, Dan. And I think that I would highly recommend that people find somebody to mentor, find somebody that will take you under their wing for a year, teach you how to do the business. But you also, it's tricky because, again, I go back to this: our industry isn't designed to do that, and so having those people that want to be leaders reach out, you want to be very cautious on who you reach out to, because again, we have an environment in this residential real estate world that isn't very conducive to helping out other people. And so you really need to find that genuine person that is established in their career and doesn't need the next transaction and has already had their glory. Not that they need to be at the end of their career or anything, but somebody who's already had the accolades and those type of things, that really wants to just pass that knowledge and pass that stuff on to the next crop that's coming up through the ranks. And I think that there's there's people out there. I think that they're the minority, but there are people that are out there that genuinely want to make this industry the best that it can possibly be, and not have those people that are coming up behind them have to deal with the same struggles that are kind of nonsense in a way, that you have to go through when you're doing it on them. And so I would,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just would highly recommend that somebody, hitches their wagon to somebody else, and because we do what we're taught, good, bad, right, or wrong, we do what we're taught. And so find a good teacher.
Right. Stand on their shoulders. That's the way I look at it. Right. I look at, how I raise my kids, and, just for example, or even the team, right? The way I look at it is, if I can make their life a little bit easier than mine in a good way, right? Like, teach them how to work within life, teach them how to navigate life. They're standing on my shoulders. And so the idea is that they're going to take all of the tools that I gave them and be on a rocket ship to the moon, because I never had those resources. How do I put these people on my shoulders, teach them everything I know, so that they can be 1,000 times better than I am, and then do the same for other people? Like, that's legacy, man. Like that's propagation through time, and you lose control over it at some point, right?
Yeah, you're right. At some point, it just takes over.
Yeah.
What are some of the questions that you would be asking? Like, let's say you're early on in your career. Obviously you have a ton of knowledge now, but what are some of the questions that these people should be asking to these potential leaders that they're looking to have mentor them?
I think a question that would be, it would be a good question for somebody who was new, that was sourcing out a leader to ask, would be, what kind of person do I want to be? How do I want to be in this industry? Or how do I want to be in this relationship? Or how do I want to be in this situation? And I think that if somebody asks that question, and let's just, bring it back to real estate, how do you want to be? I always wanted to be somebody who had confidence and experience and was a valuable asset to helping people navigate, one of their biggest financial decisions. And I had a hard time finding that example. And so I think I think you have to ask that question on how it is that you want to be. I mean, one of the things that I coach the people that I mentor now in real estate is, you don't have to work with everybody. Not everybody has to work with everybody. And I mean that because, I spent a lot of my career in my early days working for whoever I could. And I didn't find people that really appreciated me and appreciated what I brought to the table. And so I coach the people that I'm working with on, why don't you work with the people that you want to work with? We have that liberty in this business where you don't have to say yes to every transaction. And it's about a quality of life. Why would you want to go and spend 90 days with a person that you don't really get along with and that you're not really jiving with? Or, you have the liberty to be able to say no. Now, there's a financial and a resource component to that that makes that difficult sometimes. But if that person is coached out of the gate when they're starting their career to work with the people that are their people, they're going to have such a blessed career, and they're not going to be beating their head against the wall working with people that they just don't gel with. And so that's an example of one of the things that I'm doing to, help the people that I'm coaching have an easier road than I do.
Well, and I think that that's so important, that the clarity on who do you want to be, how do you want to be, whatever that question is, what do you value, right? By having clarity on that, then you can ask the next question, which is, does this person provide that? And inherently, yes or no. Like we're smart, we're intelligent people, like not just us. I mean, like as a whole, collectively. And if we just trust our gut and we just keep our antenna up for, I want somebody who's going to, whatever it is, who's going to show me how to do this thing, and I'm clear on what that thing is, that person will show up, because they're all over the place. It's just a matter of turning on our reticulating activating system so that we can actually see them. And then it's like, there they are. Got it. Boom. And getting really intentional about that. And they show up magically, right?
You bring up a great point, Dan. Some of the guidance that I got when I was first getting into the real estate industry was, you work with anybody you can, man. If you want to survive, you work with anybody you can. And that was the leadership narrative that I got. Not bad, very common in this industry. But guess what? I'm able to provide a different narrative to the people that I'm working with and say, guess what? If you want to, you don't have to do that in order to thrive. And like you just said, there are so many people out there that, we should spend the time that we have on this planet, if we're going to do it, making money, working with the people that we want to work with.
Totally. Top to bottom.
Yes. And that goes for anybody. Now, I do understand that there's a resource and a liberty component, and we're all doing this for money and that sort of thing. And so if you say no to a bunch of people that you just don't want to work with, and you're sitting there with nothing to do, I get that. But there's a balance. There's a balance. And like you said, with your gut, we all get a gut feeling when it's somebody that we want to work with or we don't want to work with.
Totally.
So I'm hearing you talk about standard, right? Having standards not only for the type of client that you want, but for yourself as well. Okay. So as a leader, what standards do you have for the people that you are mentoring?
Well, I've got standards of, the willingness and eagerness to want to learn and to participate and to do the thing. You've got to show up with your bat and ball if you want to play. And so there's those standards. And then, I have standards of accountability with the people that I work with, just to make sure that they're on point and doing the things that I know that they need to do in order to be successful. And so those are the type of standards. And then there's just overall standards of, humanity standards, of am I spending my time mentoring somebody that I want to be spending my time with? No different than a client, no different than working with the right client. Am I working with the right mentee, or am I coaching the right individual that I want to be spending my time with?
I mean, we could do a whole show just on standard and what that means. We might even add that question into our repertoire. Like, what does standards represent? Because as a leader, and then we get into consistency, right? Because if we have standards, we have consistency. Without standards, we have no consistency, and without consistency, it's really hard to lead somebody. Because if I tell Caleb that if someone calls him a bad name, he should punch him in the mouth. And the next time I tell him he should give him a hug, he's going to be like, I have no idea what to do here. Right. And it's that consistency and those standards and leading by example again, right? Like, I said I wasn't going to drink alcohol for the next 30 days. And on day 7, I'm slamming a beer. Like, you obviously don't hold yourself to standards. How can you expect somebody else to hold themselves to a standard? So, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms that we could easily.
And again, I have to reference how we do one thing is how we do everything.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, Scott, unless you have any other questions that you want to ask, we'll wrap up, but I'll open it up to you first.
No, I like it. I think that having a standard, being selflessly or leading as a selfless leader is probably the best route. And I mean, shoot, I even took some good takeaways from this too. So thanks for hopping on here with us, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely my pleasure, gentlemen.
And do you have anything that you either want to offer up, or how can people get in touch with you? Maybe anything that you're looking for in your business, anything like that you'd like to wrap up with? Anything else that you'd like to say?
He doesn't want to work with every client, though. I'm just kidding.
That's right. No, I think just the narrative that I'd like people to hear from me is just be a good human.
Yeah,
just be a good human.
Love it.
Love it. It doesn't get much simpler than that.
No,
right?
No, and if you're a good human, all the things that we're looking for and all that they'll find their way to us.
Absolutely.
At least that's been my experience so far.
It's an abundant mindset. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so listen, Ben was talking about finding mentors and all that kind of stuff a little bit ago. Here are 3 people right here on this call who lead with their heart, who want to help other people however we can. And the reality is all 3 of us want to partner with great leaders, whether it's, having somebody else come on the show to talk about leadership, whether it's referral partners, or even, bringing on leaders to our teams who we're partnering with on that side of things. The reality is the 3 of us want to partner with more leaders. So if what we're talking about here is resonating with you, then I would urge you or challenge you or whatever you want to say to reach out to one of the 3 of us and open up a conversation. We would love to connect with you. Ben, thanks again for coming on the show. This was a great conversation. Hopefully this isn't the last time. I'm sure we'll have you on again if you're open to it.
Absolutely. You guys let me know, and I would love to come join again. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Appreciate you hopping on here, man.
Thanks, guys. Be well.